Welcome to the Merick Ulrik podcast, episode 7. Today's guest is brother and sister team Carla Andrea Lopez Mata and Diego Lopez Mata. Enjoy the show. It's a good one. Welcome to the Merick Ulrik podcast. This is episode 7, and I have some amazing guests with me today. I have Carla Andrea Lopez Mata and Diego Lopez Mata, two visual artists that do comic drawings, manga, pencils, inks, color, and painted pages and lettering. They are accomplished digital and traditional illustrators, painters, drawers, portrait painters, traditional sculptors, and have experience on logo design. They have works commissioned and purchased by museums such as a bronze and wax sculpture and oil paintings. A mural of 33 square meters in Municipal Palace of Abasolo, Guanajuato. I may have get the pronunciation wrong. Please forgive me. And they've won logo designs and contests of the 150 years anniversary of the founding of Abasolo, Guanajuato, and have 11 graphic novels published, 18 book covers published, several book illustrations, and one published comic credit as writers. Some of the works have been on Amazon's bestsellers. They have works on many styles and subjects: manga, western comics, realistic, semi-realistic, fantasy, historical, sci-fi, and more. Would you please welcome my wonderful guests, Andrea and Diego Lopez? And thank you so much, Lopez. Thank you so much for being on the show, Andrea and Diego. Thank you. How are you doing today?
Oh, thank you. We are so glad to be with you, Merick, but I'm so amazed with all of that you just said.
Thank you.
Well, listen, you're welcome. Go ahead, Diego. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Sorry. Thank you very much. We are very pleased to be here with you, and we send our warm regards to you and your audience. And we hope to have a nice time with you all.
Fantastic. And I want to also say that Diego and Andrea are also the cover designers of Brothers of Chaos. So that's where we connect. And I am so happy they did a wonderful job on that book series. And we're going to talk a lot more about things they're working on in the future and other projects there we are working together on. So again, it's so wonderful to have you guys today on the show. We had a few little technical difficulties getting started, but we got started. So that's all good. It's all good. It's not how you start, but how you finish. So I'm fantastic to have you guys. So let's talk about, first of all, this is a brother and sister art team. And I think that is very unique in itself. I was wondering to know, how did Diego? How did you and Andrea decide to start working together on art projects? Or was that just natural because of your friendship as a brother and sister, or how did that come to be that you guys work together on art projects?
Well, it all started because I got a project I couldn't handle alone. It was way, way, way too difficult. It was a bronze equestrian sculpture of our national hero, Miguel Hidalgo y Costilla, and it was a nightmare to do, and it was so much work that I asked my sister for help and told her, well, I can't finish this on time. I can do it alone. Can you please help me? And she helped me. And since we have always been very, very united, it was so natural to work together since we understand each other quite well. When you're doing a sculpture, it's very, very physical, and it was a bronze sculpture. And when I wanted something or she wanted to tell me something, it was enough just by watching her, and she knew what I wanted, and vice versa. You can talk a little bit about that,
Yes,
Andrea?
it was. We always feel like kind of twins because we have a special connection. Um, with the sculptor, it was so beautiful to work with him because we had these neighbors that used to go to the place we were working to only see watches, ¿cómo se dice?
To watch
To
his
watch
work
us work because they felt like it was beautiful. We didn't even speak. We just uh, communicate with the with our
with gazes
uh-huh.
and signs, or you pointed something and I handed to you.
We just knew what the other wanted to do.
That's wonderful. I think that's so important because if you're working as a team, it's so important to have the same focus or idea. And I think that it's very difficult if you had a stranger that you or somebody you didn't know. Maybe they were a great artist, but how do you communicate to them what you're trying to do? And if you both know what you're trying to do instinctively, that's beautiful.
Yes, yes, yes. And with the drawings, uh,
Well, it started with Las Andanzas de Tibo.
yes.
Yeah, my sister. Well, you can
I had this idea for a uh,
illustrated children's book
uh-huh. And I wanted to draw all
to send it to a
the
contest.
uh-huh, to send it to a contest, and I asked him to help me. That was the first thing we did together.
Yes, in illustration it was the
It
first.
didn't won, but it was
Yeah,
beautiful to work with him.
and it was a nice revenge for asking you to help me with the sculpture.
That's fantastic. And so I got to talk with you guys a couple of weeks ago before the podcast. And yesterday was Memorial Day in United States, which is a holiday for remembering fallen soldiers who died in wars. But so we couldn't do the podcast yesterday, but we had a wonderful conversation a few weeks ago. And you spoke a little bit about your childhood or about how you got into art. And I would love for you to tell me that again. So Diego, I know that you showed interest in art before Andrea, and what happened? Tell me how you became interested in art and how that developed, and then maybe Andrea can tell me how she found some interest in art. Can you repeat that again for me?
Yeah, and I add some new details. I don't remember when I started to draw because my mother has my first drawing, and it has a date that predates when it's before I was a year old. So I don't remember when I started to draw because I have been always drawing since I can remember. And we went to the House of Culture and classes of drawing, but it was for kids, like um, trying to color coloring books and stuff like that. And I didn't like it. I wanted something more challenging. And in the high school, in the first grade, I met someone that told me that Carmelita monk was giving classes of drawing from the natural drawing in a church near home. But that church is a monastery. It's one of the oldest monasteries in Mexico. It's called the Carmen Monastery in Salvatierra, Guanajuato, and it's like a medieval fort, and it's beautiful. It's a very beautiful place. And when we met the Fray
Marcelino.
Marcelino, well, yeah, Fray Marcelino, it has an amazing name. It has the name of a monk, and when we presented, he told us, "No, I'm an artist, but I'm not giving classes. But well, if you like, I can teach you." And I started going, and I was so excited that my sister got jealous and wanted to come because I talked to her, and I told her it's like going to the medieval times. It's amazing. It's full of stone, um, ancient windows. It's a very beautiful place, and we have to go through a stairway like to a tower, to go to the study of the monk, and well, let her tell you about that.
Oh,
Uh,
I got. Can I say something? I just that the image of that is so amazing. Where you guys got to go learn or study art with a monk in an
uh-huh.
ancient monastery. It must have been as a child. You, how old were you, Diego, when this began? What age were you when y'all started?
I was 7 years old, and my sister
No,
was 6 years old.
wow. Go ahead, Andrea. I didn't mean to cut you off, but there was just so much there. I just had to say something.
It was beautiful. It was a beautiful place. Um, Marcelino, the most beautiful person you can ever imagine.
Yeah, he was such a great guy.
Yeah, the perfect combination of a monk and a hippie. He
Yeah, he
was
was
a
heavily,
hippie.
heavily, heavily tattooed.
Yes, he was a
Wow,
lovely person.
Yeah,
wow, that's funny.
I think he was like a criminal or something like that, because uh, he talked about some things about his past, like when I regenerated, when I, how do you call it in English, when someone was on the bad way and turns to the good way. Uh,
When they maybe when they had a conversion or when they changed. I don't know
yeah,
how you'd
no,
say that.
I think that was something like that because he was young. He was quite young, perhaps under 30 years,
Yes.
and he was heavily, heavily tattooed, and some sailor tattoos with anchors and things of the sea. I really didn't. I didn't ask him what was with the sailor tattoos.
We were really young.
Yeah,
We learned, well, Diego learned a lot with him. I was just playing, really.
yeah. But tell him when you said no, I'm going.
Ah, they didn't wanted to take me to the lessons. Ah, se cortó.
Oh,
Yeah. No, it's
te cortó.
hello?
Or hello, can you hear us?
All right, we had a brief interruption. A storm blew through here and knocked the power completely out, and it was off and on for about an hour and a half. So now I'm back with Andrea and Diego, and they were talking about their younger age, the early age, as they were being tutored in art by a monk in a monastery at the ages of around 6 and 7. So I'm so sorry we got interrupted. So you were speaking, and you sent me some pictures of this monastery. What was the name of the monastery again?
It's the monastery of El Carmen in Guanajuato, Salvatierra, Guanajuato.
It's beautiful.
It's
Yes, it's beautiful. I'm gonna put some pictures of it when we put this all together. I might put a blog piece together about that. It's a very unique story. So continue. So you were at the monastery, and what happened after that? After your, how long did you study with the monk? What was the monk's name?
it was Marcelino González Ibarra,
Yes, and I saw.
and
Go
I
ahead. I saw some pictures of him.
yeah,
As you were saying, he had tattoos and long hair.
yeah, he seemed like a biker. If
Yes.
you see him, yeah, if you see him in letter and that, he would would look like a biker. But it was such a great teacher.
Hmm.
And later on, we found out that he was not giving classes. I think we were just funny kids, and he said, "Go ahead," because he never had any other student,
No, we
just
were the
us.
only ones.
That's great.
Uh,
That's fantastic. So it's a very a neat story because it's a very just. I can imagine your creativity and your imagination was just through the roof. You probably had so much creativity back then when you thought of all this beautiful architecture and learning art from this monk in this monastery. That's wonderful. So I guess we'll have to transition now. Let's transition. Let's talk about. So I met you guys back in 2020 when I started writing, and you guys did the cover for my first book, Brothers of Chaos. And so I was just learning to write, and I found you guys. on, I believe, deviantart.com, and I found you guys, and you guys were so grateful. I was so grateful for you guys to be willing to design my first cover for Brothers of Chaos. So I really appreciate you guys. We had a good time doing that. There were 6 books, and I look for different artists, and your design of the Brothers of Chaos cover really just uh, brought my imagination to life. So I want to thank you so much.
Thanks to you. There are some works that are like milestones,
Hmm.
and I want you to know yours was our first cover, and I don't remember exactly if it was our first fantastic subject or it was the second, but when we met you, we didn't have any fantasy in our portfolio. I don't know if you remember that we were telling you, well, we don't have anything like that in our portfolio, but if we can draw a soldier, we can draw a knight. And you were like, are you sure?
It's funny because I was looking at. I want to stay on Brothers of Chaos for a minute, but also I was looking at all the art that you did for Aztec warrior gods, and it was you have that in a way is fantasy too. Well, it's historical fantasy because it's based on historical Aztec warriors, but it's more fantasy too because you put the, I don't know, mysticism into it as well, I think. But your art with that was very descriptive and very colorful and exciting. So it's not too hard to believe that you guys could paint and draw fantasy. So you did a fantastic job. Um, I think one good thing of what I liked about working with you guys is if I had an idea, I explained it what I wanted, and then you would try to do it, and then you were very persistent. I really appreciate you because you would always try to get it right. So if we had, and I appreciate your patience because I mean I think the first cover was just so perfect, and every cover was good, great. I love all the covers; they're fantastic. But I know that you talked about you got the logo design just perfect, I think, for Brothers of Chaos, and it really captured things the way that I kind of envisioned. So now that you guys are reading Brothers of Chaos, do you feel like the covers have brought anything to life, or have it make, I don't know, does it make any kind of thing more meaningful?
Yes, completely. When I was reading the part one and two, I haven't read all six. I just read part one and two. But when I was reading them, you are always conditioned by the cover. I was imagining Bandrin, Elezer, and Sila, and Saint Cadane,
Hmm.
and they were all having the faces we designed.
Yeah.
That was very, very funny to read.
Yes.
And when I read them, I thought I should have read this before making them because there are some things that are just so right. I really don't remember because if it was because you were so good with these instructions. And also, here is a parenthesis. We made two covers for almost each one of the covers. Each one was no, yeah, that's not right, and we would have to start from scratch again.
I felt so bad
I
because I think I was so picky. I was like, I just knew what I wanted to do, sort of,
Yeah,
but you guys were very patient, and that's why I feel so good with working with you guys. I really trust you guys because you you want to get it right. You want to get the work right, and I think that's something important. That even like today has been a difficult day. We're trying to get the audio right, and then we had the storm blew through, and you were in the middle of a wonderful story, and the storm blew in. And it's funny because I was thinking about creativity. John Cleese said the difference between a creative person and a non creative person, one of the differences is that a creative person will take time to solve the problem. They might go, I don't know if this is the right way. And they'll pause and they give themselves time to be creative. And a non-creative person was like, just do that, just try that, just do that. That's good. Okay, let's go, move on. And then that's how a lot of business is like, oh, quick, quick, go, go, go. But with art, I think sometimes art is you have to ponder and you have to stop and think, what are we doing? And then you give yourself permission to be creative. Do you ever feel that way when you're creating art?
yes. You can talk a little bit about that.
Uh, I,
Well,
um,
I forgive me for I speaking really fast, but
no,
when you're
we understand you just right.
uh,
It's my sister
yes,
that,
I understand, but it's hard to put it in words.
I understand, I
yeah,
understand, and definitely, and I want to give you more time because I think this is a good
yeah.
subject, but I feel like go
Let me
ahead.
go first, and meanwhile, my sister can think
Yes.
in English what she wants to say. Well, the creativity process.
By the way, I speak no Spanish, so you're 100 times better in language than me. So you have plenty. You're a million times better than me in language. So don't feel embarrassed because I am so far behind. And Diego, you're awesome. So go ahead and speak about the creative
Oh,
process
the creative process is,
and what we talked
yep,
about.
it has a lot to do with improvising and doing something new. Like for instance, when we did your cover, it was, I think, our first or second cover for books. We had made comic covers, and they are so different. And when you send us the idea for the second book, we treated it like it was a comic cover, and we treated it like it was an illustration. And you said, no, I want like a montage, like Star Wars, the big figures, the smaller figures.
Oh yeah.
And that was, well, doing something you have never done, it always enhances your
Mm-hmm.
creativity, putting yourself in a new situation. Like for instance, when you commission the cover, you send someone else to do the logos because we had no experience whatsoever doing logos. Yours was our first logo also, and it was very good. We saw it. Now we were translating it to Spanish, and it still holds up even if it is our very first one.
Yes. Yes, and I want to talk about that. That is a very true because whenever you first said, I think you said we just, I believe, if I can remember correctly, when I said, you said we'll do the art, but we're not going to do the logo. You need to do that separately because that's not what we do. We do art, and so I think that's what you
Yep.
said. And then so I had some other logos come up, and they were not that good. And I was trying to tell them. So I kind of, I think I expressed to you like, hey, I don't know if you can improve this cover, this logo. This is what I want, and you guys did a fantastic job just getting it perfect. And I'm looking at on my computer when I look up, it's funny because I have to look up at my other computer. It's up above me, but let me say I'm gonna butcher this, but the Los Hermanos del Chaos, and that's and I'm looking at the cover you're speaking of, and it looks beautiful with the red lettering and it's glistening just a little bit, and with the design that you did, like we mentioned, it was a montage of different things and it does. It looks beautiful. You have the night sky in the background. You really did a fantastic job on that. I really does. I'm sorry, I'm going to bouncing around a little bit, and we can go back to the creative process. But do you find that like does Andrea do more of a certain type of art that you do, or do you both like work on the same thing, or does sometimes like the background effects? Does anyone specialize in a certain part of the art?
Not really,
No.
but you can tell which one are hers and which one are mine.
Yes.
For instance,
The hair.
I made the first cover almost alone, and my sister
Mm-hmm.
made completely the last cover. I was so busy with the comic that I told her, "Well, I need to lay out these pages, and go ahead and do it yourself." And I remember you said this was the best cover yet, and I told my sister, "See."
Yes, the horse scene with the horse, it looks the way she drew the horse was a magnificent. It looks really good. I don't have that cover in front of me, but I did like that one. I felt like that one got attention because of just how good the horse and the rider looked. So I think that's a what looked really well. This is a hint of the Brothers of Chaos Part 6 is kind of an additional story to the part 1 through 5 is kind of like the main story, and 6 is what happens to Zan Kadin after the party kind of separates their ways. I don't want to ruin the story for you, but I kind of wanted to make a fantasy western. So it's kind of like a story of what happens to Zan Kadin after he wanders kind of the world as he's trying to find his place in life after the party eventually goes their own ways. And it's kind of like a plot of a western in a fantasy setting. So it's kind of a funny story. It's kind of like Zorro or mistaken identity. So he takes someone else's identity in that story, and it's a as a kind of a bandit. He takes the bandit's identity, and so it's kind of a funny story in that sense. But it's totally different, and it probably needs a lot of editing too. But anyways, we're talking about creativity. I don't want to talk too much. I'm sorry. So you guys work together in this, but sometimes y'all, to me, it's hard for me to tell who did what because it's all so good. I can't. I didn't know that. I didn't know that Andrea did the last cover all by herself. I had no idea. It was very good though.
Uh, Usually we work together by figures.
Mm-hmm.
You do this figure, I
Yep.
do this figure, and that's how we split the pages
Mm-hmm.
in covers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but here, the only way we can really know
Yeah.
who did what is in the hair,
Okay, the
because
hair.
I uh-huh, I do the hair like
Very different.
yes, very different, like messy,
Uh huh.
and Diego is more like
Meticulous.
exactly.
Yeah.
Wow.
You
Now
can
I.
you can tell by the hair.
And you can tell because actually, well, this is a bad example because I usually do a more violent style,
Mm-hmm.
but in the sixth cover of Brothers of Chaos, it was a very well. You remember the first version of Brothers of Chaos, cover six?
Mm,
It was a static horse, and she drew that too.
mm-hmm.
But when you told us, oh, it's so static, she
I
went nuts and said, I'm going to do the most violent, most crazy horse I can.
I'm sorry. I want to say I'm sorry. I'm so picky, but I'm glad because you guys did such a good job. So maybe I feel kind of bad because I was so picky. At the same time, it turned out great. So maybe I'm not sorry, but you guys did a fantastic
Mm,
job.
don't be,
Don't,
don't be.
don't.
Each cover you requested changes. It made sense, absolutely sense,
Mhm.
and each version was better than the previous one.
Yes.
Yes, you guys
Yeah.
did a fantastic job. Yeah, I'm looking at the horse right now in Brothers of Chaos Part 6, and that is probably the most violent. You can tell that horse is just galloping away and charging. It looks, yes, that is a great cover. And it looks like it's raining and he's driving in this is a crazy, it's a good, the horse, the detail on the horse is amazing. And you really captured exactly what I asked for. And it's a fantastic. I'm very
Thank you.
grateful. Very grateful. Wonderful.
Now that we are talking about the process of creativity, it's very, very different when you work alone, like in a painting or something, or when you are a part of the team. It's uh,
Hmm.
it's like a game. When you work alone, it's like playing solitary, and when you work in a team, it's almost like gotcha.
Hmm.
When you are in a team, firing and doing all the stuff, and you have your creativity and your team creativity working together and summing up, and the result is far beyond what you could have created
Hmm.
alone. And also the client, it's a big part of that creativity, because in the case of the covers of Brothers of Chaos, we put our creativity in service to yours, and our goal is your success and make shine and bring the people to your wonderful work. And it's very, very interesting to have the interaction and the enrichment of the ideas, the bouncing back. And you can tell each time we talked and each correction you pointed at, it made the work better. And we wouldn't have done that if you hadn't pushed us.
Well, I appreciate you guys so much, and I appreciate your patience and your willingness to get it right. Yes, I really. Uh, there has been several. I guess to be honest with you, you're the only ones that I've worked with on 6 covers because everyone else I've had one artist who did 2 or 3 covers for me, And other than that, you have been the only one who's done that many covers together on a one project. And I miss it too. I think I'm going to work on a Brothers of Chaos, a sequel, which is going to be called, it's going to be, I think, I don't know if I should say the title in my head, but it's going to be called The Fallen Chosen One. And it's the tale of Vandrin the Valorian. So that's going to take off where it left off. And because he still has a mission to accomplish. I don't know if you read the book. Well, you read the book in book two, so you see the prophecy that Tamar gives Eliezer about his impending death, and that Vandrin is supposed to be get strong or die, and so there's some kind of thing that's going to happen, and so Vandrin and Elite and Zan Kaden. I don't know if I'm giving away too much, but I wrote this character because Vandrin is kind of a loose cannon. He's kind of mischievous. He's got ambition. He wants to be somebody. Also, he wants to get revenge. And Zan Kadin is more of the loyal, hardworking, kind friend who everyone wishes they had a good friend like Zan Kadin, who comes and saves them when they need him and stands by his side. And his sister Zyla is an extension of that too, I think. So, because I had a really good friend growing up who was kind of like that character. I felt like Vander, and I felt like I had a good friend who was like Zan Kadin. I thought friendship is a great it's really a good thing to have in a story, because I think, I don't know, I just like having a story with strong friendships and things like that. So that's where I came with that. But I feel like I'm talking too much about myself.
No, don't worry. It's very, very interesting to know in depth what we were drawing. I was just telling my sister, getting back to that, when we read the part two and part one of Brothers of Chaos,
Hmm.
I saw some things that were just perfect. Like, do you remember when Scylla asks Eleazar, her father, to rescue Bandrin, and
Yes.
she says to him that she's pregnant with his child, and she
Yes.
really isn't. But I was laughing my ass off when I heard.
Yes, good.
Oh, can we do spoilers?
Oh yeah, it's fine. Let's just yeah, let's leave it to a few spoilers, but you can, that's fine. That's fine. I've already doing spoilers too, but we won't go past book 2 or but yeah, so that part in the story, cuz when I wrote Brothers of Chaos part 1, I started building this dynamic, and when I wrote the story, I'm sorry, I want to tell you some disclosures here, but I want to go back to your thoughts. But when I wrote Brothers of Chaos Part 1, it was supposed to be about Vandrin and Zan Kadin. And Eliezer just happened to be a character I wrote that I had no idea I was going to write this heroic character, because you find out later in the books that Eliezer is a very heroic guy. He's an outcast. He's been mistreated his whole life because he's got human blood, and so he's not a pure elf. And his children, so he's not accepted in the elf world. He's not accepted in the human world. So they kind of is an outcast. But so he wants good for his children. I think he's a widower. His wife died. We don't talk too much about that. So he's raising his two children, and he wants the best for them. And then you have mischievous Vandrin coming along, befriending his son, which he doesn't know if that's good or bad. And maybe he's being with his daughter. That's not good. And so when I came with the story, I had already had a plot where by the end of Brothers of Chaos Part 1, that, Vandrin, his family falls upon tragedy, and then he gets captured. And I was thinking to myself, well, Eliezer doesn't necessarily like Vandrin because he's a bad influence on his children. And he probably would tell his children, look, Vandrin, we can't save him. It's what happened. I'm sorry for your loss. He would probably tell his children. In my mind, I try to think about these things like if this was really happening. And that's that, he would say to them, look, he's sorry this happened to your friend. It hurts, but we're going to have to protect our family and move on. That's what I think Eliezer would have told his children. So I was thinking to myself, well, how? How are they going to rescue them? And I thought to myself, Vandrin and Zan could not rescue them. I mean, Zyla and Zan are not strong enough to go take on a whole army of people by themselves and rescue Vandrin. So I had to come up with a way for Zyla to convince her father to rescue Vandred, and that just came to me, and I was like, yes, that's perfect. Because,
Yeah,
but
completely.
the tension, the dynamics, he's not happy. He's helping them, but he's not happy. Elieser's upset. It's an interesting.
Uh, well, here is where I went with this story. When we made the cover for book two, we didn't know that happened. We knew some things of the plot, but in general, we didn't know that detail. But what surprised me when I read them is that I would watch Sila's face on the cover, and I said, "Oh,
It's very
that
Yeah,
mischievous little elf." And I saw her face, and she was like, and I was surprised that I catch by chance, or perhaps you told me, I don't remember. I catch by chance the right expression for the kind of woman that
yeah,
would do that to convince her father
yeah.
to save his loved one. And another thing, just like that, in book two, I'm going to make a little spoiler. So if you want to remove it later,
Okay.
go on.
All right. So if you don't want to hear the spoiler, I just want you to fast forward for 2 minutes from the podcast, and then you can come back and listen to it. Because spoiler alert, we're going to talk about spoilers, and so just if you don't want to hear a spoiler in Brothers of Chaos, just fast forward 3 or 4 minutes. Okay. There we go. Go ahead, Diego.
Yeah. When we did the cover for part three, you told us a little bit about Shatterguard, the Eye of Embadin, and yeah, and the idea that the arrow sang when it was fired, and when we made it, it was piercing the seer.
Mm-hmm.
No, not the seer. How do you call the creature with one eye and several eyes popping out?
Yes, it's oh the I knew it. I was just talking about the thing the other day. It's the what is it called? Not a seer. It's a I forgot. I just read it in the bit of the book. I'm going drawing a blank. It's a mind, not a mind flare. It's a man. Why can I'm just drawing a blank right now. Why can I not think of this? Go ahead. But I,
Well, that creature, when we heard about the arrow, I said, wow, that's amazing. It could pierce the creature several times before getting back to Elazar.
yeah,
And in the cover, we tried to make a way of the arrow and piercing through the eye and getting back to the mouth and getting back to him. And when I finally read what the arrow was capable of, in here goes the spoiler, in when he rescues Bandrin from Mason, when he just uh, rescued him, I saw the nocturnal attack and imagine the arrow attacking for all sides and in the middle of the night and all the people of all the soldiers thinking they were attacked by many archers
yeah,
from all sides
yes,
and the arrow popping up and I said, wow, I didn't know what the arrow could do, but it's still in the cover.
yes. It
Um,
perfect. Yeah, yeah. It's was when he and book three they have to fight a beholder. That's what it was. A beholder. It's what it's
yeah,
called. The
yeah.
beholder. Yes. Yeah. Yes, I am so excited about that. I'm really glad you guys like the book. I want to tell you something else since we're talking about the book, the story. If you go back to Brothers of Chaos Part One, um, I'm really I'm very grateful for you guys to take your time to talk about Brothers of Chaos. It's very selfless of you guys because it's very exciting to me to actually because nobody asks me these questions. So I thank you for asking and talking about Brothers of Chaos. But I want to tell a secret, I guess, is that when I wrote Brothers of Chaos Part One, I when my initial manuscript, I wrote it and I sent it to an editor to edit it. Okay, a professional editor, and paid some money to have it edited. And this female editor, she read it and she made some corrections, but she said, I can't do this book because it has too many mistakes and your grammar's bad. And she said, your female characters are one dimensional. They don't have any, they have no, They don't seem real. They seem fake, your female characters. And I thought to myself, oh, did I do that? So I went back and I rewrote the book. And that's where I came up with Zyla and then Beth and the other women in the book, because I thought to myself, like, I'm right from a man's perspective, and these women can't be just cardboard cutouts. They have to have real personalities and real thoughts and feelings. So I really put more effort after that into writing Zyla and Beth and the mother and stuff like that. Try to think of what they would be going through and what their motivations would be. So I think it's funny because I talked to my girlfriend too, and she's like, no, the female characters are good now. So I don't know if y'all noticed that or what you thought about that.
Well, one of the best moments of your book and one of the best characters is Sila. And
Yeah.
when she is persecuted by the scouts of the enemy, of
Hmm.
Mason, I think,
Yes.
uh, and she takes the arrow and uses one arrow twice to shoot two people. She's a very developed character. Now you're invested on her while you're reading. But the
Yep.
best part and what makes the character for me, and I understand perfectly what type of person is ingenious. Do you call it ingenious in English? When someone is
Mm,
resourceful and
yes.
or
Yes,
clever.
ingenious. Yep.
And how was she pressured to feel she was losing the one he loves, the one she loves,
Hmm.
and at the time of pressure, being able to coming out like, I'm pregnant, please save the father of my son, I don't want my son to be a bastard, and
Yes.
hit Eleazar right in the spot of his pride and his honor. I think this makes so much dimensions to the character because it makes her funny, it makes her clever,
Resourceful.
resourceful,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and acting great under pressure. I
Yes.
think we this is such a good character, and also it's not just a good character development, but a genuine plot twist that you were laughing your ass off, saying like, "No, you're pregnant," and
Yeah. Yeah.
the reaction of Bandrin, like when his brother is telling her, because he's telling his friend, how does why is your father trying to rescue me? He doesn't like me. He thinks I'm a bad influence for you all.
Yeah.
And he says, and even San is angry and says, well, you impregnated her daughter,
Yeah.
and I also had to save you
Yeah.
because now we are family. And Bandrin is like, what? I did what?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. It's a
this
good.
is a great moment
Yeah.
because when you learn that piece of character of Sila,
Hmm.
Sila is not even on the scene. You
Yes.
just see
Yeah.
the
Yes.
consequences of her actions,
Yeah.
and that's why I tell you when we painted her, it was such a good fit for what she did and how we depicted her that I was thinking it's almost like if we knew she was this kind of person.
Yes. Y'all did a fantastic job. I really feel like the first cover really captures the friendship between Zandrin and Zan Kadin. What's funny though, in the first book, you don't see Zan and Vandrin actually fighting a battle together, but it's just the picture of who they are. I want to talk about something else I'm really excited about, and I have a lot of faith in you guys. You guys are going to be doing we're going to be translating Brothers of Chaos to Spanish, and I'm so grateful for you guys, because here was my problem: is that okay, I could hire a Spanish in translator to translate it, but I have no quality control. I can't check it. But I just tell you, I have complete faith in you guys to get it right. I really do, because I don't read in Spanish. So but I'm super excited to see this. And when I look at the covers and I see it translated to Spanish, it just makes me happy on another level that maybe somebody in another country will get to read this story and it will translate to them, and they will see it and have some enjoyment about the story. So I'm super excited about having this Brothers of Chaos translated in Spanish for people in Mexico and Spain and all across South America. I hope that people will read it in Spanish and fall in love with the stories. What do you think? Do you think Spanish readers will like the story?
Well, in yes, I think they will. Here in Mexico, we have many fans of fantasy. Well, I think more in Spain, but in all Latin America, one of the dearest books is Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. And even I'm a avid reader. Well, we don't have such a culture of reading as in other countries. I think you in the United States read more than we, but there's a public for it.
Well, a question I have is: do you think readers in Mexico or do they like to read their books? If they do an ebook, do you think they read it on Amazon, or are there other platforms like Kobo or Barnes and Nobles? Or are there some other platforms you think that maybe readers would like to read it better? Because I'm not to I've done had the Brothers of Chaos on Kindle Unlimited, but I'm not opposed to having it put on other platforms as well. And also, Brothers of Chaos Part One is available now on audiobook in English on Audible, and I'm so excited because I'm going to make sure we get this audiobook produced in Spanish as well, so some people can listen to it on Spanish. So,
Yeah. Well,
but I asked, do you think the Amazon is the best platform for Spanish books, or what do you think?
I think it is because we know of Amazon and we don't know the other platforms, and we are the type of public that consumes what you uh, do. We are fantasy readers. We have a we have read a lot and a lot of that fantasy, and well, we are perhaps because our age, we are old school, and we do most of our reading in paper on paper.
Yes.
But
Well, we could. I do have this. I do have this now. I have Brothers of Chaos in a paperback. And I'd probably like to send you a cover. I mean, a copy. I want to send you a copy. So I need your address and I'll send you a copy of the original. But I will say this book, I am editing it because this was my very first book that I wrote, and I God bless me, but I'm getting better. I'm like not perfect. So I've had some mistakes, and I found mistakes, grammar mistakes, and things like that. So I've been improving the book. So I'm like before I sent you the Spanish copy or the English copy of Brothers of Chaos Part Two for you to translate. I went and did some edits. But if you find more mistakes, just let me know. We can change them. But I'd like to send y'all both a copy of Brothers of Chaos, the complete saga, and maybe we can get it translated and made it into Spanish as well, and people can buy that with print on demand. So yeah, but so maybe we can do that too.
yeah, we will be very happy to read it, and we would love it. And I really enjoy more reading on paper than reading on a screen.
I do too. I
You
do
get
too.
you get more concentration. You can
Hmm.
carry it with you.
Hmm.
It has a weight to it that it's an object you
Yes.
are handling, reading, and
Yes.
it picks some things out of you, like it's your book. You have your
Hmm.
quotations,
Yes.
Your
even
autograph,
yeah,
please.
autographed,
Autograph,
please.
please.
Okay. Okay. We'll autograph it, but the okay. I will send you this copy, my copy, and autograph it and send it to you, and then I'll order another copy for me because if I send it directly from Amazon, it doesn't come here first, so it's just
Oh,
from
Ah,
Amazon.
yeah.
So, but I will send you my copy and I will autograph it and I'll send it to you. But then you need another one so that. But I don't. I'll send you one for now, and then maybe we'll get it translated to Spanish and we can have another one.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yes.
Well, I hate for you to have to share one. I'll have to order another one because I only have one copy here. So thank you guys so much for speaking about Brothers of Chaos. It has been a pleasure working on that series, and I think too it's my first series, but I think the covers are very beautiful. I enough about my writing. I feel like you guys did a fantastic job for me, and we're going to talk a little bit later too. If if other people are writers and they write fantasy, or you write other genres, westerns, historical fiction, uh, Andrea and Diego would be great at doing your cover. Now, they may be busy, they might be too busy, but maybe you can get a hold of them. Maybe you could hire them for a commission. I'll send some links below. All their links are going to be provided in the podcast link below. So if you're listening to it on Spotify or YouTube or whatever platform, click on the description, and in the description there will be a link to their websites and where you can get a hold of them in case you want maybe possibly to hire them to do some art for you guys. But I think they'll be pretty busy, but you never know. They might be able to afford them and get them to work for you if they like the project. I don't want to speak for them, but they are very great artists.
Thank you so much.
So, I mean, just looking at the, I think you know what. To be honest with you, I don't know. I said Brothers of Chaos Part 6 is my favorite. Looking back, I love all the covers. It's hard. Cover 3 is probably more colorful because it has the beholder. Cover 4 to me is one of the most dramatic ones, and I think we had the hardest time getting this one right. But I feel like it has very much action, and as you will see that Brothers of Chaos Part 4, I will not spoil it for you, is one of the more dramatic episodes. And of course, Brothers of Chaos 5 is the climax, you might say. The climax. So, but let's shift gears. I feel like I'm talking too much about my art. Let's talk about Aztec Warrior Gods. How did that project become? You guys did your own graphic novel. Was that a commission where you guys were approached with by the writer? How did you guys? How long did it take to do that? Because I've read part one or book one or chapter one, and the art is amazing. But how long did it take y'all to finish such a? That was a big project, the Aztec Warrior Gods. Tell me more about that and how that came to be.
Yeah, would you like to start?
Um, well, uh, no, I don't remember how did it.
Okay. Well, we got started. Well, in most cases, we almost always start by chance. Any project has a lot to do with chaos and chance.
Mm-hmm.
We were making a commission for a client that was very, very difficult, and she made us do an accountant fever because she was distrustful and didn't want the half upfront usual, and she wanted her ass covered in some way. And we made um,
Portfolio.
the portfolio. We made all the page in fever on fever, and finally went to nothing. But our account of Fever remained open, and then we one day got a message saying, "Can you design us as, a Jaguar warrior, an Aztec Jaguar warrior?"
Mm-hmm.
And we were, "Yeah, we can do that." And we made it. And then he said, "Well, now the same character, but this time not the historic Aztec warrior, but now a modern version like a superhero." And we didn't know yet what was happening, and we made it. And then we made it and made a couple of versions of it, and the client
Mm-hmm.
loved it. It was
It was seven.
seven
Seven
versions. Yeah,
versions.
yeah. We made seven versions
We
of
made
the
seven.
characters.
Wow.
And when we finally, well, you can't feel better now. You are not the you're not the one that asked for more changes.
I'm not the most
Yeah.
picky. Yeah.
But when we finally got it right, he told us, David Towner,
Mm-hmm.
our current boss, he told us, "Well, I am doing
Mm-hmm.
a comic and you did such a fine job." And he wrote the story of Aztec Warrior God, and he sent us
Mm-hmm.
the script, and we would adapt it into panels and comic. And we started working on the first two issues. And when he released issue 3, we noticed it, that he commissioned someone else to help him write it. And he asked us if we knew some female writers to have on the team and have the female vision on it. But we weren't. we didn't have ideas for it in that moment. But then when the chapter 4 was going to be commissioned, we saw something that it was painful, it was powerful, it was one of the saddest experience we ever had. We were living in Irapuato, Guanajuato in that time, and we saw the train. Perhaps you know about the Beast.
No,
It's a train.
I haven't got to book 4 either, so I need to read that one. I've just read the first one, but I need to get through all of them. They're really good. But go ahead with the. So this was this a disaster that happened in Mexico you're speaking of?
Disaster that happens every day. The Beast is a train, a cargo train, a freight train that is filled with migrants that travel from South America and runs through all the country and connects to the United States. And people from all South America climbs on top of the beast and goes to the north on the back of the beast. And it's very, very dangerous. And you see children, women with babies trying to climb on that. Well, we were at night coming from doing the shopping, and we were on the car when the train passes through the middle of the city and it stops the traffic, and it takes about 10 to 20 minutes to pass because it's a train that is 4 miles long, and it's rusted and it's old, and it's very slow. It moves to like 15 miles an hour, and it's very, very slow. And we were waiting for the train to pass when we saw a lot of people that went from under the bridge and start running toward the train, and they were carrying backpacks and um, blankets and all kinds of luggage, and threw their luggage on the top of the train, on the top of the wagons, and start running and climbing on the moving train. And when the machinists saw the people climbing on the train, the, they started to speed up. It went up like from 30 miles, no, like from 50 miles an hour, like to 60, and it started roaring, and the people kept trying to climb, and the train was moving very, very fast, and people, there were dozens and dozens of people trying to climb, in very, very frightened. In the middle of the night, it was like 10 o'clock, 10 p.m., and the train was speeding, and the people started to throw their packs to free their hands and start climbing the train. But some people started to fall, and we were with a knot in the stomach, hoping no one fell under the wheels of the train because it can maim them or kill
Yeah.
them. And the people were falling inches away from the steel wheels, and we were horrified. We were
We
like,
were
"
screaming.
what are the machinists doing? Why are they speeding up?" And we were imagining the kind of suffering, misery, fear that could lead the people to take such a risk.
Yeah.
And there was mothers with babies tied up to their backs by a shawl, and they were, when the train finally passed, many people couldn't climb on it. People that fell, people that were running and chickened out of taking it, or people that didn't reach the train. But they already threw their luggage over the
Oh
train,
man.
and the people were crying because it was all they have on their
Oh
lives
man.
on a
It's terrible.
bag, and the train was taking it. And when we saw that, we wrote to our chief and to our boss and told him we just saw this,
Mhm.
and we have a Mexican superhero, and we would like to add this to the story.
Mhm.
And imagine what would your superhero do
Mhm.
if he saw this.
Yes.
And we knew where the story was going. We knew the lore, and
Yep.
he had spoken too much He spoken a lot to us about what happened,
Mm-hmm.
and we asked him to give us the chance.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote a small summary of the story we have in mind
Mm-hmm.
to include the migrants and the story of Aztec,
Well, now
and
I
we
really want to read this story, and I want to keep going with this, but I want to tell you that I don't think people in America, like, I think I'm pretty well informed, but most people in, the United States of America, they don't even know about this stuff. They don't know about this train. They don't know about a lot of the suffering that people endure on these hard trips. I mean, honestly, like, the migrants who are coming, a lot of them have suffered all kinds of terrible things from coyotes or traffickers, or just from the journey. It's a terrible thing. I mean, I understand that. I can understand. I can try to understand what must be some terrible hardships to make people want to make such a difficult journey. But I want to say, like, a lot of people in the United States, we never hear about this stuff. We barely hear, except for what we see at the border when they're crossing, but we don't know of the suffering that's happening on the journey, because it's just not on TV and they don't talk about it on the news. They show pictures of the border sometimes, but they don't talk about all the suffering that, maybe if someone goes from Venezuela all the way to Mexico, that's a long way. It's a very arduous journey. But go on. I just want to know that a lot of people in the United States may have never heard of this. It's true. I mean, we don't we just not publicized. I
uh,
mean, we see what's coming across the border. We have millions of people coming across this year, every year, but we don't know. We don't. It's not talked about. So, anyways, I appreciate you bringing this up.
well, the whole issue number four, most part of it takes place on the rooftops of the wagons of the beast.
Mm-hmm.
And the beast is called this way because it's so hard,
Mm-hmm.
and it's also called the train of death.
Mm,
And the journey on top of it to the north can take up to a month.
man.
And while you're riding the beast, you can sleep, because if you sleep, you fell. And many people that sleeps over the beast falls and gets killed or maimed
Mm,
by the wheels. And there is also, it's not exclusively migrants
mm,
from South America.
mm-hmm.
It's also from the south of Mexico, people
Mm-hmm.
from the southeast of Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
There's also many people that has no. You find the poorest of the poor of the migrants on the beach, because this is the people that don't have the money for a coyote, and don't have the money for a bus,
Mm-hmm.
and don't have money at all. It's people that has almost to nothing.
Mm-hmm. Well,
It's the poorest, poor and most
so
desperate of all.
now I have to read Aztec Warrior God book 4, or comic
Chapter 4.
4.
Yeah.
Now, because that seems to me even more interesting than the book 1. But the book 1 had a lot to set up, as far as like the emergence and how they came to be and everything. So, uh, yeah, that is a very deep story. I think now I have to read that one soon. So I appreciate you guys writing that. So was that hard to draw those scenes, or was it just very easy because you have the emotion to paint that?
Uh,
Yeah, it's hard.
it
I,
was a
I,
nightmare.
it was Diego was busy with the page
Writing
with
and laying
writing,
out the pages.
and I was drawing almost all the pages, and it was
Hmm.
a hell
Oh my God,
because of the
subject matter.
subject, and because of the
Complexity,
yes, there was
because we had
too
to.
many characters.
Yeah, there are 600 people over the beast. In each
Hmm.
ride, there are from between 300 to almost 1,000 on top of the beast, and just by that number, it was dozens and dozens of people in each frame. And then at the end, when there is a big battle and there is a carnage,
Hmm.
there was dozens and dozens of people, and
It's all
we
there.
also the beast in certain point derails, and driving all the wagons falling down and the people
Hmm.
falling from the beast. And it was the most complex thing we ever made.
So, if a listener is listening right now, you can get Aztec Warrior God on Amazon. So, it's on Amazon Kindle. You can go online just in Amazon and search Aztec Warrior God. But it has 4 chapters, or how many chapters is Aztec Warrior God?
Four,
4.
yeah,
Yeah. So
and
he's
this is the
speaking
last
of the
chapter.
4th chapter that Diego has written, and then of course, Diego and
No, no,
Andrea did all the art.
it was
Sorry.
David, Andrea, and me who wrote it.
Okay. Okay. So
We all
Andrea wrote it too.
see, yeah,
A bit, yes.
Mhm. Yes.
Like
we,
kind of
yeah,
an editor. I'm like an editor.
uh-huh.
Hmm.
Like for instance, she was the one telling me, no, that doesn't make sense, and change it, and would
Hmm.
propose new ideas. And I was like making, well, my sister is a way better writer than I. She has a very beautiful language, very beautiful expression, figures. She's far more skilled. I got some good ideas,
You
but
guys are so modest, but I appreciate you guys work together so well.
yeah, she
Do
got
you
upset.
do y'all have so Aztec Warrior God? It's not in Spanish. The one I saw is in English. Is it in English and Spanish, or is it just in English?
Eh,
Yeah, it's in
It's in
English and
English.
both,
Spanish.
yes.
And in the
Yeah.
last
So you
chapter,
can.
yep, we we did the translation to Spanish, but
Hmm.
in the last one, when we wrote it, we made the original in Spanish and translated it to English.
Hmm.
The last one is the other way around,
Okay.
translated from Spanish to English.
Yes. And that's a. I have heard that English is one of the hardest language to translate because of all the slang and all the euphemisms that people use on a common basis that doesn't translate very well. I think sometimes it's hard to, but I'm confident you guys will do a great job. But do you have a hard time translating ever from Spanish to English, or is it pretty natural?
No, it's easy. We find that more difficult to translate from Spanish to English because English
Hmm.
is not a native tongue, and
Yes.
we weren't so sure if it was sounded beautiful in English,
Hmm.
because when we wrote it in Spanish, it sounded
Hmm.
beautiful, but when
Yes.
we translated it to English, it was hard to know if we achieved that.
Well, let the readers find out. I think you guys will be pleasantly surprised with Aztec Warrior God. Especially, I have to read. But now I'm just so excited to read. I just want to read that story. I may skip to book 4 and then read the rest later because now I really want to know what happened on the train on the Beast and what happened with the story. Now I've got to read that one. So I don't know if you get mad at me if I read 4 and skip 2 and 3 and then go back and read 2 and 3. I don't know. Will you let me do that?
No, 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 go
You
ahead.
can do it.
We would love your opinion because
Yeah.
we co-wrote number four, and many of the people that have read it
Hmm.
uh, have told us that they cried when they read it.
Mm.
And why are you making a superhero comic that makes people cry? What is that?
I think that's good because honestly, I mean, I think it's not you have human emotion is the most important thing. I mean, in art, I think you bring out some kind of emotion that's important, and also when you have real issues you're tackling, you're handling. So, and it was such a crazy time when you wrote this book. When y'all did the Aztec Warrior Gods, it's set during the time of the pandemic, so it was a crazy time to begin with, and so but you handle
Hmm.
book 1 is very much like a regular comic book in the sense that you have villains and you have the superheroes planning to do something to take care of problems and solving problems, secret identities. They're trying to keep their identities secret, so it's very exciting. We have talked for over an hour because our first loop was about 15 minutes, first recording, and now we're at, I guess, 57 minutes. But I want to say I just really admire you guys. Um, I want to tell you something that I always tell a lot of my guests that I like that all creativity. John Cleese said, and I'm a follower of John Cleese. He was in that comedy group Monty Python. Do you ever watch a Monty Python? Is a English British.
Yeah,
They had the movie the Search for the Holy Grail, Monty Python. It's crazy, silly movie. It's
yeah,
very silly,
and Monty Python and Flying Circus. Yeah,
very
it's
silly,
very, very
silly. But
silly but
yes,
clever at the
well,
same time.
John Cleese was the one of the main writers for Monty Python, and I've seen some of his talks, and I like to tell this to my guests, and I ask them about this, and he says that all creativity is based on playfulness, or he says, it's impossible to be creative when you're in a closed state. When a closed state is where most people are when they're in business and they have to show up their cubicle, put their clothes on, button everything perfect, and then they go and their boss tells them, okay, I need this report on my desk at 2 o'clock, and we're gonna have a corporate meeting and all, and it's very closed. It's very, yes sir, we got everything perfect, everything's right, and you can't make mistakes. That's a closed state. I'm kind of paraphrasing. But the open state is the state of playfulness. And when you're a child and you play, there's no right way, no wrong way. You're a superhero and your friend's a superhero, or we're playing baseball and I'm a Babe Ruth and you're Lou Gehrig, whatever the baseball player was, Mickey Mantle or whatever. In your mind, you're playing. You're in your imagination, and I think there's some truth to that. The creativity comes from a state of playfulness. So sometimes I feel like I told this to my girlfriend other times, like, when you're stressed out about like life and you've got things on your mind about, we all have responsibilities with children or bills, or, we got to pay the water bill, we got to pay the electric bill, we got to take Johnny to school. All these things are important. But when you sit down to write, when I write or create art, he says all creativity is based on playfulness. And I know it's hard to sometimes translate because he was a comedian, but I think that's true. I think so. When you get down to paint, when you're drawing, how do you maybe get yourself into a creative state of mind? Do you ever have to, or do you just, is there anything in your life that you do to keep yourself, how do you say, like in a childlike state to where you can create and not judge what you're doing immediately, but just begin to draw, begin to create? Does that translate to you? Does that make sense what I'm trying to say? Do you find there's a creative process where you come to a place where you're like, I know you can't be creative all the time, but you let yourself just be creative and go and not judge? Do you? Anyways, I think I'm talking too much. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Yes, yes.
go ahead.
I need to tell you that I have this dog named Serenata,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm having her uh, a Facebook page, and that's what I do. I play with
Mm-hmm.
her character,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm creating her. I'm making her sing. She writes
Horror stories.
horror stories.
That's great.
My dog is
That's
a
so fun.
writer
That's so
and a
funny.
singer, and her name is Serenata.
Oh my god.
It's serenade,
And
serenade in English.
surname?
I think so. When you
I don't
go
know.
to your girlfriend and sing, is it a serenade?
Yes,
And you sing
yes,
her
yes. Like when you
surname?
you serenade a girlfriend or a
Yeah, that's what
prospective
Yeah,
I
that's
girlfriend, a girl
serenade.
that you want to woo, you serenade them. You
do.
you 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 want to get their attention. You sing a love song.
That's her name. The puppy
Mm-hmm.
is Serenade,
Okay.
and that's what I do. I play
Mm-hmm.
and I create. I have created
Mm-hmm.
things so beautiful, and it was just playing.
Uh-huh.
Yes. Yes.
Uh,
Uh,
every artist is like a child that never grew.
Yes.
We are even we have a lot of well, we have way less common sense than most people.
Yeah.
For instance,
yes,
like in every other profession,
Mm-hmm.
perhaps we would be doing better,
Yeah.
but we like this one. It's like being a professional child as a work.
Yeah, but it's so important to happiness. I think some people have this open state of mind that if they were not creating, they would be miserable. Because even if you got a job, and let's just say Diego never became an artist, and instead he was a used car salesman, and he was the most successful used car salesman, I think he would probably be unhappy. you know, I don't know.
Yeah,
We need to write, we need to draw,
and we are
we need to
always,
create.
yeah, one part of our creative process is doing things that we have never done before.
Hmm.
Like the first time, one of the first times we worked together, and when we started to working together always, was because we were commissioned to do two life-size wax sculptures,
Hmm.
uh, hyper realistic, and we haven't made a wax sculpture. We made some little sculptures for the Anthropology Museum of
Hmm.
Art here in Mexico, but like in dioramas, like 12 inches tall.
Hmm.
But now we were doing, and that was like 10 years before. We were doing a life-size wax sculpture, and we have never done something like that. And we have to research how to make the wax, how to make the painting, how to paint the wax, how to make the skeleton for the figure. And while we were making it, we noticed that the skeleton didn't hold up, and we had to chop off the legs of the figures and uh, attach tubes and steel reinforcements to the legs so it can support itself. And it's always our process. We when we made our first comic, we have never made a comic in our life,
Hmm.
and we are always embarking in things we have never done, and we are starting doing and learning as we go. And it's like playing a game you don't know the rules for, and that's extremely fun.
Yeah, it's fun. You learn the rules as you go. That's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are just wonderful people. It's so good to get acquainted to you guys finally. I just really enjoy speaking with you guys. You guys exude creativity, but also just kindness and humanity. And I just enjoy working with you guys and reminiscing about the Brothers of Chaos books 1 through 6 have been just very for me, it's a pleasure to reminisce about those books. I have, written some other books since then, but it's been a pleasure reminiscing. And I'm so excited about the Spanish books that we're going to be doing together with the translations. And already the cover designs are beautiful. Like you said, it really holds up in Spanish on the cover. Even the the design, the I can mess up the words, but just fantastic. And I loved speaking with you guys about the artistic process. We're going to have you guys back on the podcast again soon, hopefully. And anytime you have something you guys want to promote, please just message me and tell me about your new projects and stuff. So, anybody who wants to get a hold of Andrea or Diego, the Mata Lopez, they're the brother and sister team, a fantastic creative artists in so many formats, talking about sculptures and comic books and uh, book covers, and I'm sure realistic art as well. And so, fantastic, guys! Just really enjoyed talking with you guys. Do you guys have any final words? We're just in closing. I mean, the hour has just blown by so fast. I don't know if we had more to talk about. It just went by so fast. Do you have anything else you'd like to say before we go?
Oh, please start.
uh, Thank you very much for having us. It was a pleasure. We really love to bring to life the projects. Um, the projects you have, they're beautiful, and we love your story. We love your characters, and it's an honor to keep on working with you. Thank you
Oh,
very
you
much.
guys. Thank you. Thank you guys for doing it. And I'm so glad.
Yes,
And
I
Diego, you can.
forgot to do some shameless self promotion. Yeah,
Go
well,
ahead.
When I was talking you about the chapter 4, I forgot to mention something that is one of my favorite things about issue 4. How you weave the stories together of the Aztec. The train, the beast, is cargo freight, and it's used by
Hmm.
the Aztecs to distribute the vaccine they created for the pandemic in Mexico and South America.
Hmm.
And this is how the people, the migrants, are mixed in the story. And it's such a
Hmm.
wonderful ride. And a final thought about thanking you. And it has been an honor and a joy working with you. And we are very proud and very happy to have finally meet you. And I really didn't think we would get along so well. It's just like making a click.
Yeah, but I'm well. I think artists. I mean, I do art because what else can I do? I like creating stuff, and my background was a musician, and I didn't make any money doing that, but I love doing it. I still do it, but I make some money, but it's not nothing to be counted of, and so meeting you guys and just hearing about your history with art and whether it's painting or there's playing music or writing lyrics or writing a story, it's all creativity, and it's so great to speak with two wonderful creatives who are just so open and to talk about their lives and their creative process. So it's just been a joy. So, man, I hate to say this, but we have to end the podcast at some point. So, we're going to go ahead and end the podcast. This has been episode 7. It's been wonderful. And I will be glad to have you guys back on the show sometime in the near future. And so looking guys, if you've enjoyed listening to Diego and Andrea, please look at the links in the comments below, if you're listening on YouTube or Spotify or whatever platform you're listening on, just click on the description and we'll have links to their pages where you can see some of their art, where you can check out Aztec Warrior God, which they were a big part of. And definitely want to now I've got to read chapter 4. I'm sure I just have to read it now. So I'm so excited. I just read the first one and life's been so busy with Memorial Day and everything. But anyways, so thank you guys. This has been an awesome podcast. Again, to properly say, this has been Carla Andrea Lopez Mata and Diego Lopez Mata interview. And forgive my poor pronunciations. It's been a pleasure. All right, we're going to go ahead and sign off, and we'll see you guys next time on the Merick NH Ulrik podcast. All right, let's say goodbye. See y'all later.
Bye.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much, and thank you to your beautiful audience.
And
Thank you for listening to the Merick NH Ulrik podcast. Tune in next week for episode 8, where I interview fantasy and romantasy author S.D. Houston. It's going to be a great talk. Lots of good stuff. See you next week.